Hi, welcome to Jilly G's Kitchen. Today we are going to make gluten-free cranberry orange muffins. Have the oven preheating to 375, and in here I have 2 cups and a little bit extra of flour. This is my gluten-free flour blend. Everything is room temperature. So into our 2 cups of flour, we're going to put 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I have my muffin pan ready with liners. You don't have to use liners, but make sure it's well greased. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and this is it for our dry mixture. We're just going to mix this around a little bit. In this bowl, I have 2 cups of cranberries. You can get fresh or frozen depending on the time of year. I always get extra when they're in season and just stick them in the freezer. I make this recipe all year round. So I took them out last night to let them thaw, and I've rinsed them off really good, and I've gone through them and picked out any bad ones. And so in here, we're just going to add a little bit of flour, toss that around a little bit. And that looks good, so we'll just leave those right there and put the flour aside. In here I have 1/2 stick of softened butter, a little more soft than just room temperature. And we're gonna beat this. So you just wanna whip it up a little bit. And then I have a cup of honey. I stopped baking with white sugar on and off a couple of years ago, but for the last year or so it's been pretty steady. I've substituted either honey, coconut sugar, or maple syrup. So I decided to go sugar-free and use just better alternatives. And most of my recipes I've converted with honey. It's a little bit less sugar, 1-for-1 than the recipe calls for, but we don't really notice a difference. And you can actually get away with a little bit less honey. But if you want to make it with sugar, I will put the equivalent in the description box. I just want to get all of this out, and we're going to just cream this together just like you would any other butter and sugar mixture. Okay, so now that I have the butter and honey mixture creamed together pretty good, I do have 2 eggs, room temperature. We're going to add these one at a time, maybe. Or maybe both at a time. It should be fine. And just mix these. It might look a little, kind of curdled and separated, but that's totally fine. It's what it does. And so now we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. A little extra. 2 tablespoons of orange zest here. We'll just add this in at the same time. I'm going to scrape the bowl down before we start adding our other ingredients. So I have 1/2 cup of milk, and again our flour mixture. We're going to alternate. Start with a little bit of flour and a little bit of the milk. And a little more flour. More milk. And I'm actually going to switch to just a spatula for this last bit. Okay, so just going to keep scraping down the sides. It's getting much thicker. I'm going to go just a little bit more flour. I'm not too worried if everything isn't totally combined because we still have more mixing to do. And last bit of milk. And last little bit of flour. Just want to make sure it's all getting mixed in. No big clumps on the bottom. Now we have our prepared cranberries. And I have about a cup here of toasted chopped almonds, and we'll mix these all in. So 2 cups of cranberries. There's a little bit extra flour. Get that. We'll just mix this in most of the way, and I'm going to add in the nuts. You could substitute any kind of nut or leave out the nuts altogether. And that looks good. Oven is just about ready, so we'll start putting this in our muffin pans. One more scrape. This makes 12 muffins. And we'll just fill these up eyeball it to make sure they're all even. This makes more than 12 muffins. Hold on. I think I can get 3 more out of what's left here. Let's find out. Maybe 4. I think we've got 1 more. That's a bad idea. And I'm just going to use this. Maybe 1 more. Stealing some of these cranberries. Make this last one. So these go in the oven at 375. I'm going to check it at about 30 minutes and see how they're doing. This darker pan always seems to cook a little faster, but just keep an eye on it. So I'll put those in the oven and we'll be back as soon as they're finished, and I'll show you how to make the honey butter topping that we make for these. Okay, we'll be back soon. Okay, so I've just taken these out of the oven. I let them cool in the pan for just a minute, and then I take them out and let them finish cooling on this wire racks. They took about 30 to 35 minutes. While those are cooling, we're gonna make the topping. In here I have half a stick of softened butter, and we're just gonna mix that up. You just want it to be light and fluffy. Just shy of 1 cup of honey. Make sure to get all of it out of there. And then I have the juice of 1 orange. We may or may not use all of this. It was kind of a smallish orange. That's probably about a 1/4 cup. I don't know that we'll use all of it, but we're just gonna mix this together. My beaters are top heavy. Let me get some of this out of here and then we'll keep mixing. I'm gonna add a little bit more orange juice as well. You can add zest in this if you want to, and even nuts, but I already did that in the muffins, so just the orange juice is fine for me for this. Almost there. I'm gonna add a little bit more orange juice. I think I needed a bigger bowl. So this is looking good, depending on how much of this you want to put on. I mean, they are muffins, they're not cupcakes. It's a pretty good consistency. I think I might add a little bit more orange juice. And if you put this on when the muffins are too warm, it will melt because it is butter. A little bit more orange juice. And I think that's good. You might notice that it looks a little kind of chunky and curdled, but once you mix it together with the spatula, it does come together in a nice spreadable consistency. Okay, so we're just gonna mix this, make sure there's nothing on the bottom that didn't get mixed in. And it's definitely not this consistency of frosting, it's a little thicker. It is butter. I'm gonna put it in this plastic bag, and then we'll cut off one of the ends, and then I just pipe it on. Faster and easier than using a spatula. Just like any piping bag, just move it kind of down to the end. If your hands are really warm, it will make this melt. And if it gets too warm, you can actually just stick it in the fridge until it firms up a little bit. So I'm just gonna cut off the corner here. And I'm not gonna do all of these yet because they are still a little bit warm, but I will show you just one. So here's one of our muffins. I'm not doing very much because it is still warm. It's gonna melt everywhere. And they look pretty delicious. Okay. This is not a super sweet muffin. Cranberries are very tart. This honey butter topping just sets it off just right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any requests or comments, just let me know. We'll see you on the next one.